Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for joining us for today's webinar titled Record Temperature Readings and Download into Any Form, Software, or System. Today's webinar is brought to you by Design World and TEGAM. So before we get started, let me just mention a few housekeeping points of order here. Just as a reminder, general reminder that this webinar will be available at our website, designworldonline.com, after today's webinar, if you'd like to view it or reference it once again. And everyone who registered will receive a copy of the webinar via email. Also, you'll see that there's a resource widget there that you can use to view the webinar slides. You can move them around and size them to suit your preferences as you see fit. Keep in mind also that we will have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar, so you can submit any questions you may have via the Q&A widget, which is at the bottom of the console there as well. And we will do our best to get to each and every question during the Q&A portion of the webinar. And lastly, if you're on Twitter and you'd like to tweet about the webinar, you can do so using that hashtag there, hashtag DWWebinar. So my name is Miles Budimer. I'm a senior editor with Design World, and I will be moderating today's webinar. Let me give you a little bit of information about our featured speaker today, which is Adam Fletter. So Adam was the president of TEGAM from 2005 to 2021, and now serves as the senior director for product management with Advanced Energy. He holds a BSET degree from the University of Akron, as well as an MBA from Case Western Reserve University. He's been with TEGAM for 15 years, serving also as Director of Marketing and Sales, and has over 20 years of experience across a range of different industries, including broadcast TV, airborne radar, and industrial automation. So with that, I think I will hand it over to you, Adam.
All right, thank you for that nice introduction, Miles. I sound better than I am in real life, so that's great. The thing that we want to cover today, this is not an exhaustive seminar. Actually, it goes pretty quick, but it's about simplifying the collection of temperature records. And we've, over the years at TEGAM, various engineers have been involved. We've done a lot of data collection. We build a lot of instrumentation, and inevitably when you build instrumentation, people want to capture those numbers for their records. And we've done a number of things, some things more successful than others, but what we're going to look at today kind of distills some of the better practices that we learned and turned it into an app that makes things really quite useful for a wide number of people. We'll talk about those situations. So first, just the agenda for today, and I tried to make these rhyme so you can see why I've made my living as an engineer and not as a poet. But we're going to talk about the old days, the painful ways, and maybe a few hoorays when we get to the end. So if you've been collecting data in a plant, and this is still very common, the old clipboard and paper methodology, it still gets you quite a bit. People will take in case of temperature readings, they will take a thermometer, they'll make a reading, they'll set a thermometer down, they'll pick up a clipboard, and they'll write down a number on a piece of paper. And if you do that, you're going to get at least 2 to 3 errors per page just by transposing some numbers. It's also, because it's not very convenient for people, they'll often put that off to the end of their shift and fill in the numbers that pass accordingly. It takes too long, and it doesn't help a person be more productive. And paper itself can be a source of contamination. The physical storage of it when you're done, if you want to turn it into digital information, somebody has to type it into a computer again. And of course, that's a source of more errors, the transcription errors, typing it. And it's not real time. Even if you type it in, it's still a shift late. So it's still widely used, but widely frowned upon. So that was the old days. Now this is the painful ways. Custom systems integration. You can buy a number of thermometers out there that will have some form of connection, whether it's wireless or wired connection, maybe USB, some sort of things on a memory card. Data can be pulled off of a memory card. And so you can write some software to make these temperature measurements automatically or at least semi-automatically get into a system. And this might be the right solution, but it's minimum $10,000. I've seen it cost, 7 and 8 figures in some estimates for projects. So it can get very expensive, and it also becomes very inflexible. It's built around this software infrastructure, and then what happens when things change? That's expensive. It has to be adapted. But if it's a large project and has some very specific needs, it might be the right solution. We worked on some projects with people that wanted to receive food in a warehouse, and they wanted to have it right on their purchasing order. So they wrote a system that when they received this food, they tested it for temperature. It immediately put that right on the shipper receiver, went to their purchasing system, automatically paid their vendor, and also recorded that the food was properly stored. They did that when they checked it out of their warehouse again, and so their chain of custody, they could demonstrate that the product was at the right temperature the entire time they had control of it. So that was a very sophisticated system, and it justified a custom project. It provides secure and it's real time. It's minimal errors, certainly, but it can be expensive. What we wanted to do at TEGAM is to address the situations that don't justify this, large, expensive investment for infrastructure. So that led us to TEGAM Link. This is a version of an app that's version 2.0. The first version was pretty effective, but we were working with a project at a large food manufacturer as well that wanted to deploy a bunch of Apple iPads. And actually Apple got a hold of us and said, you should alter this app with some new features. And the new features are actually what we're talking about today and became TEGAM Link 2.0. And what we like to say is that the software, its vision was that it would connect with everything. And yes, we mean everything. So really any app or software that runs on a mobile device, a phone or a tablet, can be connected with the TEGAM Link software. So the two goals that we had when we developed, first was to be universally connectable, as we said, but also we didn't want anybody to rekey any data. So one way to make something universally connectable was to make the operator the interface, so they key numbers in again, which takes too much time, and that's fraught with error. And we also wanted to make it not sensitive to a change in software. So if someone had infrastructure that they were using and that changed, that this wouldn't force a change. So we wanted to automate the capture of these critical time measurements. We wanted it to be accurate, we wanted it to be fast, and we wanted it to be secure. So how are we going to do that? Well, we have multiple methods for that. There's the tried and true copy and paste method. We'll look at that. Data logging itself, and keyboard extension. There's a fourth method, which is really just a screen capture, and that has some limited use. We'll talk about that, though. So let's first look at the copy and paste method that most people are familiar with. The screen on the left here is the display of the app on a phone. At the face of it, this is a single, basically displaying data from a single channel thermometer. So you have the T1 channel, you have the reading, but then the thermometer also collects min, max, average, range, and standard deviation. So all of those numbers are available to be copied and pasted. So I simply touch the number, it puts it into the paste buffer. You can open up the app that you want or a website or whatever form you're filling out, and simply put the cursor in the field that you want and paste it in. That'll copy that over. If you're using a phone, that's a little less convenient because you have to flip screens, although that's not bad. If you're using a tablet, you can set it up in split screen mode, and then you can just copy from one to the number that you want off of the screen onto whatever field you want, which is by some hand touches. And then, so that's the copy and paste feature. But from that, we can move to more data logging. And if you see at the very bottom of the screen, there's three icons. The green icon looks like a thermometer. That's showing this screen. But we also have a data logging screen that's on the left. When you press the manual store key that you see there, it will simply capture the temperature at the end and also a timestamp and put that in a table. You can turn on data logging with the auto store control, and what that will do is will simply log data on an interval set into the thermometer. So if you put in it every minute, it will simply grab that reading and put it in a table every minute. So let's look at what that looks like. So when you're in data logging, you're basically creating a timestamp list of points. So the idea is that instead of just a temperature, now you actually want to record a time and a temperature. In this case, we also include the date. But every interval, this particular example, you see the interval is 5 seconds. So every 5 seconds, we are grabbing a point off of the thermometer. You could also manually hit the store key, and at any point, it would put that on the phone. So it would be just added to the list. So say you're collecting time by temperature readings every 30 seconds, and you found another point that you wanted, you'd hit the store key, and it would just add to the list. And then you could sort it out later by the timestamp. Now, you can use that data a couple of ways. Again, you can use the copy and paste feature. So you could just picking a row in the table, you could touch that row, and then you could paste that into a document. Say you want your report, you were just writing a report, you wanted to put those readings in. You could do that. You could actually paste it into a spreadsheet. So it's interesting. Different spreadsheets behave differently. If you paste it into like numbers, the iOS spreadsheet product, it'll actually separate it into two fields. Excel, for some reason, takes it as one field. You have to separate it, but pretty simple manipulation. The other thing you can do is you can touch the header of the table where T1 timestamp is, and that would actually copy the entire table. So if you collected 100 or 1,000 points, you could copy all of those points into a document or a spreadsheet just by touching and holding the header of the table. All right, so another mode that's in here. This is the center icon at the bottom of the screen, but we put a strip chart in here for fun because you can. You've got a phone, you're collecting a number of points. So every time you enter the strip chart, it recycles and starts again, and you can use this to watch a process. So you had a heating process. You wanted to see how long it took to get the temperature, how well it regulates at the top, at the peak, maybe how long it took to cool down. You could capture that entire waveform. You could just use screen capture to then paste it into some document. We have a number of applications for this, but kind of an interesting one is people that eradicate bed bugs for hotels. One of the ways they do this so that they don't use a lot of chemicals is they use heat. And they'll put some large heaters in a hotel room, and they'll heat the entire hotel room up. I think it's 140 degrees, and they'll hold it at that temperature for a long enough period of time to kill all the bed bugs and all of the eggs and any larvae and anything that's left. So it takes a period of time to do that. So you can document that on the screen, and then when the exterminator sends his bill to the hotel manager, he can send a screenshot of each process, and they can see that they've gotten what they need. That they've gotten the right amount of time to kill all the bed bugs, and this is done, and they can pay the bill knowing they've got the service they paid for. All right, let's look at the keyboard extension. This is one of the most useful pieces of it. This is an inherent function both in iOS and Android. And if you look at the bottom of the illustration on the right-hand side, you'll see the little world icon. This is on an iPhone. And this is just Notepad is open, and notes are open, and you can see the keyboard there. This is used for things like different languages you can switch between, but you can write your own custom version of a keyboard. And to do that, it saves some software. What we do is we switch out the standard Alpha keyboard with our own custom buttons. We'll look at that. But you can define some things. You can set the app up to automatically update the clock on the thermometer. You can set the decimal precision so that when you're collecting data, you can restrict it to, say, integer units or 1 or 2 decimal places. And you can also append a terminating character. There's the option of none, but you can also add a tab and a return if that makes your workflow easier. So let's look at an example here, 2 examples actually, where we're using some software called Safety Chain, and you can have fields where you want to put data. You simply touch the field that you want to fill, and then you choose the channel button. In this case, there's 2 channel thermometers, so there's two buttons. But in this case, the data that's live is actually displayed live in the channel 1 field. If you touch that button, it'll automatically put it into the field that you had highlighted. You can then also tab or backspace or use a return, or simply touch the next field and touch the channel button. So you can fill a number of fields on a page in a very short period of time just by touching the button, touching the field, and then touching the button. And because it uses this keyboard extension, it works with any software. This is an inherent operating system function. So if you're using it on the case on the right, that's just an Excel spreadsheet on your phone. You could do that. You could do this with some web page that you've opened, and you could do it with Twitter. We've played all kinds of goofy games tweeting out thermometer readings. It really doesn't matter, and that's the beauty of it. If the software changes, it's fine. The keyboard extension still works with it. It also shows you at the header bar which serial number it's connected to on the instrument. So if you paired it with an instrument, you get data from the correct one. We've been talking a lot about the app, but I think it's worth spending at least one slide on the thermometer that we've been using with this. This is our 900 series thermometer, and it was designed with comfortable ergonomics. We used some NASA ergonomic studies to fit into the 90th percentile female hand or male hand, and also with gloves so you can get a grip on it. It's a very accurate thermometer, and the base unit will support the 8 NIST thermocouples, collects a number of statistics. We designed it with a sealed keypad so it could be cleaned. It would tolerate environments where there are a number of contaminants. Also, we give it a long battery life so that you could use it for an extended period of time without worrying about changing batteries. With the radio on, it'll run for 1,000 hours. With the radio off, it'll go for 2,000 hours, and it's just 3 AA batteries. We also designed it to mil specs for shock, drop, and vibration, knowing it would be used in industrial environments. And there's a single and a dual channel version. 931 is a single channel and 932 is a dual channel version. And we also offer an ISO 17025 calibration option so that you can get this thermometer from the factory with a cal report, so you can use it in your quality system. The two things that really make a thermometer cost money over time is changing batteries. It costs a significant amount. You have to change the batteries often, and getting it recalibrated. So the calibration is guaranteed for 2 years. So you can actually go 2-year calibration cycles if you want to hold its specs for that period of time. So by eliminating changing batteries and a lot of calibration, you make the instrument much cheaper to own over the life of it that is applied. And then finally, of course, what's most important to a lot of people is not even the thermometer or anything else, but it's what is the probe? How does the probe function? And is it compatible with my application? And we have a number of probe tips and combinations. We do custom ones for people when they have special needs, but from wires to immersion probes, we use stainless steel sheaths so they're chemically resistant. We have things that penetrate frozen foods or solid objects, surface probes, air and gas probes, even very small hypodermic probes that respond much faster. The response of a probe is very much related to the mass, and so sometimes a faster response can be achieved by taking the mass to a very limited amount. So we have again a number of accessories to go with the thermometer that makes collecting the data in the end easier. So that's the survey is what we're doing. So at this point, I'm ready to take some questions. This is a piece of note, as Mel was mentioning in the beginning. TEGAM was purchased by Advanced Energy in June of 2021. And so now we're operating under the Advanced Energy umbrella, and that's been a good change at TEGAM. And we also have a much wider range of temperature measurement capabilities with that. So with that, I'll take some questions.
Okay. So all right. Well, thanks.
There's the questions. Now you know.
Yeah. Okay, there we are. All right. Well, thanks, Adam, for that very informative presentation. I think I just have to mention that you brought up strip charts there, and it kind of took me back to my old college co-op days when I used to, when I worked for a company that manufactured strip charts, recorders, basically. So it took me back there quite a way. Yes, as Adam's pointed out, this is the Q&A portion here now. So if you have not already submitted any questions, but you do have a question for Adam, then please go ahead and do that. We will try to get to as many questions as we can. We've got some coming in here now, so we're gonna try to do, like I said, as many of these as we can here in the time we have left. So let me start posing some questions here for you. All right, let's start with this one here, since this maybe ties into kind of maybe some of your last points here. But so this is a question about in which operating system is this app available?
Oh, okay.
Which operating system?
What we're showing here is available for iOS and Android currently, and you can get those off of the App Store, and I think it's Google Play is what Google calls their App Store. So they're available directly from that.
Okay. Okay. Let's see what else we got.
And they're free, by the way. We don't actually charge for it. So if you buy the thermometer, you can just download the app for free.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Good point, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's one about the communication here. This one asks, how does a thermometer communicate with the mobile device?
Oh, okay. So that it uses Bluetooth LE. That's the low power, low energy standard.
Okay.
That's rated it's supposed to be guaranteed for 10 meters, and we see, which is 30 feet, a little more, and we see like if the environment's not terribly noisy with Bluetooth transaction, we've seen it go up to 100 foot. But typically what you're doing is, the way you use a thermometer is it comes with a belt clip. You put it on your belt, and you're actually just probing with the probe, and you're interacting with the thermometer on the phone. So the distance is, it's within 2 or 3 foot of the thermometer at all times.
Okay. Okay.
And all standard phone. I mean, any standard phone has a Bluetooth LE. That's how your headphones work. That's that's
right.
standard in any phone these days.
Right. Okay. Let's see another one here. Okay. How about how many measurements can be stored in the mobile device?
Okay, that's a good question. That is configurable. The minimum, I think, is 5,000. Then we let you set it up to 10,000 or 15,000, and we capped it at that. There's really not a reason to limit it other than what we found. We tested a wide range of phones, and depending on some phones, they could only handle so much data before it started to degrade the performance of the phone. It couldn't keep up with the thermometer. So we limited that. So 15,000 is really kind of the top end.
Okay. All right. Okay, let's see what else we got here. If we have any more questions here. Okay, so here's one. Okay, so this is a question about calibration. How is the instrument calibrated?
Okay, it's an electronic calibration. So basically, you apply a simulated temperature signal into it, and then correct the reading on the instrument to match. Standard temperature calibrator, although it needs to be a fairly accurate one. And we put that calibration procedure actually in the manual of the instrument, so we don't try to keep that a secret. It's available right in the manual.
Okay.
And you can download the manual right from our web page.
Okay. So here's a question about the pricing question. It asks, what is the price for a meter probe?
Okay, so the U.S. list price of the single channel Bluetooth thermometer is $350, and a probe will range from $25 to $100, depending. We make some very elaborate probes that are 3 foot long and made of stiff stainless steel for if you want to use them for sword fighting, in addition to measuring temperature, they're good for that too. So, so that varies, but it could be. And this works with really any, it's a mini TC connector. So really any probe that you buy with a mini TC connector on it, and it's K or T or whatever the standard thermocouple you use is compatible with the instrument too. You don't have to buy a probe from us as well.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see here. Looks like we might have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. Okay. So let's see what else I can. All right. So here's one. Okay. So this references something that you'd said earlier in the presentation. It says you mentioned to record and transfer a 100 or 1,000 readings, you just tap on the tab heading. Will that transfer all at once, or do you have to do it page by page?
No, that'll copy the entire table. Yeah. So if you have 1,000 readings stored in it, and you copy use the header to copy the top, or to copy the page, it'll copy all 1,000 readings and you paste them all in.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be annoying to have to do that page at a time.
Okay. All right, good. All right, so it looks like we've come to the end here now. The end of our webinar. So I guess we can start to kind of wrap things up here. So just actually prior to wrapping things up, maybe I should just reiterate some of those housekeeping orders that I mentioned up front. So just keep in mind that this webinar will be available at designworldonline.com after this webinar, and everyone who registered will receive a copy of the webinar via email. Also, if you're tweeting at all, you can tweet about the hashtag using the hashtag DWWebinar. You can connect with us here at Design World through those various social media channels and whatnot. That includes all the standard ones: Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, including our own engineeringexchange.com website as well. And also, likewise, if you need to get in touch with Adam, there's the contact information, I think 2 slides prior to this one there, you can find that. So even if if we didn't get to one of your questions, or if you think of something after the fact, you can certainly email Adam or folks there at Advanced Energy, and I'm sure they will be more than happy to answer your question for you. So that's about it. I think that pretty much kind of wraps it up. Once again, want to thank Adam for your time today and for your expertise, and for presenting for us today. Thank the audience for tuning in for us, and hope everyone has a good rest of the day.